You can never whip these boys if you don't keep you and them separate. I found that out in Birmingham. You've got to keep the white and the black separate.
Feel it coming in the air. Hear the screams from everywhere.
In 1865, President Lincoln signed the 13th Amendment that freed all African Americans from slavery. In that same year, the literacy rate in the African American community was only 10% because slave owners would not allow their slaves to get education.
In 1896, the Plessy v. Ferguson case mandated separate facilities for blacks and whites. This decision was determined to be constitutional as long as the facilities were equal. In 1954, the United States declared state laws establishing separate public schools for blacks and whites unconstitutional.
I've been sleeping here instead.
So I grew up in segregation, and so there was a black school and a white school. My uncle was the headmaster at the black school, and my dad and mom made a decision that they were going to send us to the white school. So from kindergarten all the way up, I was in basically 9 months out of the year, I was in a white environment at school.
The decision overturned Plessy v. Ferguson because separate education facilities were unequal. The white schools were supplying better education because they were receiving more money than the black schools.
In some of the cities, as I was in a small town, in some of the cities, I would say yes, for sure, the dollars are wherever most of the white people are, even to this day.
The African American community protested to get schools desegregated. Although protests were often disrupted by the use of fire hoses and other crowd control resources by the authorities.
Division was, we was being held back, we're not given our rights to show our love and kindness towards others and to be successful in life.
One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
Ruby Bridges, at the age of 6, was the first African American child to attend an all-white school. She was escorted by U.S. Marshals 5 blocks from her house. For the first year, she was the only child in the class, after all the other students were removed by their parents.
I understood that it was important, but it didn't really hit me until I saw the Norman Rockwell painting. And I realized that it wasn't something that just happened in New Orleans, but it was something that people all across the country, all across the world actually recognized, especially through the painting. And I always say that the lesson I took away was a lesson that Dr. King tried to teach all of us. And that was that we should never look at a person and judge them by the color of their skin.
The Federal Civil Rights Act was set place July 2, 1964. It declared that programs receiving federal funds may not discriminate on the basis of race, color, nation, origin, or sex. This ended segregation in schools.
In 1970, Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education declared that school systems had to achieve racial balance within school districts, even if that meant redrawing boundaries. Charlotte, North Carolina, was widely seen as the city that made desegregation work.
And the black population is almost pretty much in the middle of the city. And so to achieve racial balance, they would literally take the black population and bus so many here, so many there, so many there. But there was no school. There was a magnet school here, but that magnet school was predominantly white.
In the 1990s, there were issues with acceptance to magnet and charter schools being racially unequal. On average, well over half of the population in the schools were white.
In 2000, Education for All goals were established by the United Nations. 164 governments pledged to reach these goals.
One goal is to have all children, particularly girls and ethnic minorities, allowed access to free, complete, quality education by 2015.
It's not you looking at me and not seeing that I've got brown skin. It's seeing that I've got brown skin and it's not an issue.
In the future, we would like to see equal education available for everyone, including minorities, women, and the impoverished, to allow equal opportunity for success.
I had the education and the restaurant business. I didn't have no education in the restaurant business. I never ran a restaurant before in my life. If I'd have had some form of education in a restaurant, I would have been a lot more successful.
Basketball lessons when she was about 7th grade. Rock!
I don't know what that accomplished, but he did it.
So I mean, people can tell you all this, oh, don't follow your dream.